Well, I thought it was important the day after Friday night's great event that we got right back on the court and practiced. And our guys responded well, understanding that as much of a celebration and pretty good performance Friday night was, that we have a lot of work to do. And we had a really good practice. Yesterday I gave the guys Sunday off, and I think so they all could go to the opening game for the women's team. I think they were all there, which was good to see. And we got back to work again yesterday. So it's a process. I thought we did some good things on Friday night after evaluating the tape. We can still get a lot better defensively. And there was, again, times where we got out of ourselves and hurried on offense and tried to make plays a little too quick were the times that we got in trouble. And that's just something that we need to keep getting better at. We have a game tomorrow that is another opportunity for us to take a step forward against a very well-coached team, a team that when I was at Dayton we played us extremely well. You got a couple Atlanta kids on the team, so it's a big game for them. And their big kid, Clyburn, inside is playing very well for them right now. So we'll be challenged again because we had a hard time guarding Davis. And as everybody knows, you have to do one of the areas we can improve on is our post defense. So that will be a big challenge for us tomorrow. Open it up for questions.
Going back to Davis, what did you see that the defense wasn't doing that they could have done to maybe made it tougher for him?
Well, I think two things. I think, number one, we made the decision in our game prep that we weren't going to dig down as much on him. Not only our game last year, where Tarrant had 6 threes, in many of their games last year where they were successful, they did a really good job of shooting from the perimeter. And we felt that through what we were going to do on the offensive end, we were going to make Davis and Bruja work extremely hard. And even if they offensively had the opportunity to play a little more one-on-one in the post over a 40-minute game, we were going to be able to maybe wear them down a little bit. And that's exactly kind of what happened. Our normal defense is to help down a little bit more in the post. Second reason, that's a tough matchup. And sometimes in some of the non-conference games, you get those difficult matchups, and a lot of times it's more on the post players that have a tougher matchups because you're playing Davis many times. If he was playing in the ACC, would be playing more the 3 spot. So you throw a freshman out there, Robert. Okay, here you go. Number one, you're not going to get any help, and number two, you're going against a pretty good player that's going to stretch the court on you. So it was a challenge. I thought for the most part we did a pretty good job. He made some tough shots, but also our game plan was to give him a little more one-on-one opportunity so we could, defend the 3 a little better.
Kind of how did this Presbyterian thing come up? Was this part of the football package, or was it something else like you have in a prior relationship?
Well, it was part of the football package. As you guys know, in the beginning of the year, I think we got into a scheduling situation because of the change of the Virginia Tech game. And so Presbyterian fit the criteria that the football team was looking for. And they parlayed that into a 2-year commitment for them to play us in basketball as well. The one thing being said, I've joked about it, but they also fit our characteristics of a guarantee game. They're a team that is constantly going to be, even though they haven't been able to play in the postseason because of their status, they're always you want to play good teams during that, teams that are going to win, games. And sometimes those teams don't win as many in the non-conference because they're playing so many guarantee games, and then they go into the league and they end up at the end of the year 16 and 15, 17 and 14, and those are the teams. They're good. They're well coached. They do a lot of good things. We're going to see different defenses. So they also fit our criteria, what we would do in terms of one-way games as well. Because those games are really important. Out of your 5 or 6 that most BCS schools play, 4 of those have to be teams that are, end up being 500 or better, or it hurts your RPI. So you have to be the scheduling is a science, and to be honest with you, Presbyterian still fits into the proper equation.
From the get-go, you wanted to kind of try to upgrade the pre-conference schedule. Where are you in that process? I mean, obviously we see who's on it this year, but where do you think you are in for the future?
Well, I think in some ways, the philosophy on your non-conference scheduling has been adjusted because of the league. We now play 18 league games. So in the past, you played 16. So that gave you 2 more opportunities in the non-conference to play high-quality opponents. Well, you don't have those opportunities anymore. So now you play 18 league games. You play Georgia. You play in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. That's 20 games right there against, primarily top 50 to 75 RPI type teams. Then you play in one of the exempt tournaments where you're playing, more or less out of those 8 teams. The kind of format for many of those exempt tournaments is 1 team from each BCS conference, and then 2 highly regarded mid-major programs from the A-10, from the WAC, from stuff like that. And so now you're looking at 23 games. So it does you have to be careful now in terms of, especially where we're at as a program, in terms of overscheduling as well. But, our schedule is always going to be competitive. You want to have a strength of schedule that puts you in a position where if you have a good non-conference record and do well in the league, you're in a position for an at-large bid. And so, there's a lot of numerical formulas that you put into place, and then those teams you play every time, as soon as you're done playing them, you just hope that they win every game they play.
Coach, were you satisfied with the way the team rebounded the defensive boards and got the ball up court?
Yeah, I thought that that was a big key for us, as I said after the game, and then you watch the film. We did not rebound as well as we need to in our 2 closed scrimmages. And we've put an emphasis on that, I think we could be a really good defensive rebounding team because our guards can be really good defensive rebounders. And anytime you have your guards coming back and rebounding, that's going to help the pace of play because they can blast the ball out and so forth. And so it was interesting. We moved the ball better. In terms of ball reversal, and we shared the ball better, and we scored 79 points than we did, even if in comparison to when we played them last year. We didn't take as many quick shots, and so we were much more efficient. Our offensive efficiency was 1.06, which is pretty good. Anytime you're scoring a point per possession, you're going to put yourself in a good position to be successful as long as you're guarding somebody. At times we didn't necessarily do that, but for the most part we did.
You mentioned scheduling and RPI and formulas and so forth. I'm curious, do you actually go, is it you or someone else is kind of crunching numbers, or is it you more like, I know we want a team with this RPI, or like how in-depth does that?
It's pretty in-depth. I mean, we do analysis of every team that we're going to play, who they have coming back, what the recruiting was like, what type of schedule they play, offensive, defensive efficiency, what style, all the different things that come into play, what their RPI was over the last 5 or 6 years as well. you know, be brutally honest, when you come from, you know, a non-BCS conference, that is so important. It becomes a little less important because of the 18 conference games that you're going to play. You know, out of those 18, you have probably, at the end of the year, probably 14 of those games, if you win them, they would consider those good wins, you know, and you just have some more opportunities for that. But it's still, we spend a lot of time in the spring on you know, when we're kind of finalizing our schedule. And some of it's out of your hand, who you play in the ACC, Big Ten Challenge, what teams are finalized in some of these tournaments. You know, so there's a flexibility there, but at the same time, you know, you try to put yourself in a position where if you take care of your business, you're going to be in a good spot.
Coach, staying on the scheduling theme and realizing in the fledgling stages of what you're trying to build here with a young club, how much do you have any say, or how much do you reach for some of these marquee preseason games we're seeing? We got the big event in the Dome tomorrow. You had a couple of the carrier games. And I know you're talking about some heritage teams, but how much can you lobby at some point down the road and reach for some of those games?
Well, you know, I went over early and actually spent some time with Coach Izzo today, and you know, I just talked to him about his trip out to Germany in that game. And those are things that, you know, down the road we want to be in position to do. There's no question about it, to play in some of those games. You know, they're in a position where, you know, they obviously they want to win that game, but a loss doesn't necessarily, you know, hurt them and so forth. They turn right back around, and now they're playing in Atlanta tonight. But there's no question those, you know, playing in Anaheim with Cal out there and Xavier out there, and we open up against Rice and St. Mary's and NCAA. They may not have the same maybe media coverage, but at the same time, those are all postseason teams. There's no question about it. Within the next couple of years, we go back, or I don't know if they've ever been to Orlando before, but that's a great tournament as well. You know, and we're finalizing another tournament for us next year as well, where we'll be playing at least 2 games against, you know, really, you know, top notch. But those specialized games, I'm not sure you're going to see many games on ships anymore. You might be. But some of that other stuff is something that, you know, down the road we definitely want to be part of. I think the around Veterans Day and doing something that ties in with the military, especially here in Georgia, we're a great military state. You know what I mean? I think that would be something really neat.
Have you made any decisions in terms of shuffling any of the lineup, or are you going to go with the same lineup again in terms of starters and the way you rotated?
Yeah, I mean we'll go with the same lineup tomorrow night. We just won by 20. Yeah. I have no idea who the starting quarterback's going to be. No.
Coach, you had a chance to look at the 3 freshmen in their first game. What are you going to be looking for from them moving forward?
I think all 3 need to get a little better on the defensive end, which is, you know, par for the course. It's not rocket science when it comes to freshmen. I thought that all three played well. You know, I thought all 10 guys. I mean, we're going to have all 10 guys continue to move forward for us to move forward. I don't think, you know, we'll be as good unless we have all 10. But those 3 freshmen I thought played well. They set a new Georgia Tech record, though. All 3 freshmen shot an air ball during the game. I don't think that's ever been done before. But that's okay, too, because that was good film work that we were able to show. So, but, you know, again, they're physically ready to play at this level, which is always a huge plus. And I think you saw that they all 3 know how to play. Just more experience. Just the more experience, the better. But that's just not game experience. That's every day in practice. I was really pleased with our team coming off a day off and the win on Friday for us to come out and have a good practice yesterday. That was a step that I'm not sure we were ready to take last season. And I don't like talking about last season. There was a marker I wanted to see, and I thought our guys responded extremely well on that.
How much of a motivating factor was the atmosphere that you had on Friday in terms of showing the guys what's possible in terms of getting the building full and getting a crowd there, and also in recruiting, I guess, too, for the recruits to see that?
Well, let's look at three. First, the game itself. I don't think you can underestimate what a crowd like that does for your team. If you're not ready to play and don't play with great energy with a crowd like that, you probably need your, check to see if you have a pulse going. It's just, you'd have to be comatose not to play with great energy with a crowd as electric as that. They were tremendous. And again, we have a great fan base, and they were all out. But the group that kind of drives that is the students, and they were fantastic. Now, I know it maybe didn't get as much coverage, but when Mufon says he was almost in tears when he saw the students, he was. That meant a lot to that kid. This program is really important to that kid. And getting him leaving here with it back on solid ground is important for him. And so when he saw that meant a lot. So that's the first one. In terms of our guys understand they have a part in this too. They have to take some ownership in our support. And they take ownership in playing with the pride that they played with and the energy that they played with. They're smart enough to know that we're not where we're going to be down the road. But the people here, our fans, the people of Atlanta, the Georgia Tech alum, Georgia Tech fans, and the students, I think they realize that too. But they appreciate, and they want to see us play hard. You know what I mean? They want to see, with 4 minutes to go and we're up 20 on a loose ball, Marcus Hunt, putting his chin on the wood for the loose ball. That's important. And then the third thing, recruiting. It was a great night recruiting-wise. Because, again, so many times in recruiting you're selling a vision. You're selling, something that is kind of out there. Well, that was tangible for the first time since we've been here. Something that we've talked about, those guys could actually feel. And that was important. And they also got to, they got to see us play with just not totally there, but they got to see us play how we're going to play and where maybe they fit in that system and style.
Two things. You touched on it already. But the freshmen, one thing I noticed, and I noticed numbers don't say everything, but they only had combined, they went with one turnover. I'm just curious,
Right.
What do you think that says? And the other thing is, you mentioned the crowd. I noticed that you sent the team around to give foul to the students. Is that something that was spontaneous, or?
That was, well, you want me to address the first one? All right. Assist to turnover ratio is going to be big for us this year. Huge. I think we're 305 in the country last year. There may only have been 304 schools in that list. We were bad. We have to do a better job of taking care of the ball and do a better job of creating shots for our teammates. Those two go hand in hand. Moving the ball, letting the ball do the work, letting the ball find the open shot is really important. I thought we did a great job of that. When I talk about ball movement and just making the next solid pass, we go 18-10 assist to turnover ratio. Well, that's a big change from where we were last year, and we need to continue to do that. We cannot, if after 2 ball reversals we don't get anything, we can't panic, and we need to stay within what we do, because, again, it goes back to the efficiency. We can take quick shots, but if you don't make them, then, if you make 3 more passes and you get a better shot, it's better for you. So, and I think everybody did a good job of that, freshmen included, with only 1 turnover. Who had that turnover? Did they credit Robert on the turnover when he didn't catch the over-the-top pass? Or did that go to Brandon Reed? What Carter had the 1 turnover? That was probably it. But, again, I that turnover I don't mind. So that's a stat to watch for us. That's really important. And then the second question. Oh yeah, that was with about a minute and a half to go. We were up 20 points, I think. We have some subs in, and not one person had left the building. Not one, including the students. They were still there. And if anybody knows what our players go through on a daily basis here, it's the students. And we need to have a connection between our team and our student fans. And so, yeah, I just said, hey, make sure when you're done shaking Tulane's hands, because they deserve it too, to make sure that, and they kind of took it from there in terms of going all the way around, which was neat to see. We got good kids. I mean, we're getting there in terms of a great, the program we all want. That becomes just part of what you do in a situation like that. So we're going to get there.
Did you ever think about after the ball game next day that on a night when you open a new building and you have 100 and some odd players, that a walk-on kid who grew up a Georgia Tech fan was at the free throw line at the end of the game?
You talk about what a great way to end it. And I saw his father after the game. That was the biggest smile I think I've ever seen in my life. Brooks tried to downplay it a little bit, but you could tell he was fired up. Then I got to get on him because he shouldn't have caught the ball that deep in the corner against the press and get trapped, because we had worked on that, not to get the ball below the free throw line. And then he remarked he did it on purpose so he could get fouled. But that was great. That kid has followed us his entire life. It was a dream of his to come to Georgia Tech and play on the team. He's been a great addition, him and Ronnie and Colin and Aaron, the Iron Four, we call them. They do a great job. And Brooks has been a great addition to the program. There's no question about it. He's a good player, and he knows how to play. He's been well coached, high school-wise, really well coached. And, again, for me, those guys are part of the team. They're treated no differently than anybody else. And again, that you talk about the intangibles in a program, that's important.
Your friend Coach Izzo's had a lot of guys through the years that, as you described, take ownership in the program, the team. It's no accident when you recruit those kind of guys. What did you learn from him, and does Mufon remind you in any way of any of the guys you saw come through that program?
Yeah, he does. I spent 10 years there, and one of the few guys, I think Coach Crane and myself, I think are the only 2 guys that were assistants with Tom and then assistants for Tom. So we saw him in both capacities. And all those guys that were there when we built it back up and then really, took it to another level. Those guys all had great toughness, which Mufon does. He's a tough kid. But again, there's an emotional piece too. There's an emotional attachment that, some people try to downplay. But this is college, and you're supposed to be that way. And so, you just, as Mufon gets better, what those guys are all able to do is control that at the right times and then let it flow at the right times as well. And I thought Mufon did a good job of that on Friday night.